What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. I want to go ahead and continue with this series of my top 5 most hated NBA players. And I guess some of you guys was like, wait, man, shouldn't he be number one? Nah, he's not number one. But I think a lot of you probably know who's number one. And it's not James Harden. I don't hate James Harden. It just disappoints me, man. I don't hate James Harden. It's another guy. I think y'all know who it probably is, maybe by this point. But number 2, LeBron James. And the thing about this is, I used to love LeBron James, man. I used to love LeBron James. If you listen to some of my earliest videos on this channel, it was like a totally different guy talking about LeBron James. Like, this can't be too raw. This can't be Big Mike. He's praising LeBron. He's rooting for LeBron. He's rooting for the Heat. Well, I gotta admit, it was around that time that he was starting to turn me off a little bit. Around 2010, 2011, the whole decision thing was starting to turn me off a little bit about him. But I still rooted for him. But by 2013, 14, yeah, the tide was turning with me as far as this guy. But in the beginning, I rooted hard for LeBron. I first heard about LeBron all the way back when he was in, I believe, 8th grade. It was a Slam magazine. Man, this probably was like 1990. This might have been, I'm thinking, was this when Jordan was still playing with the Bulls? It might have been 1998. 99, when they were talking about some of the best grade school players, and LeBron James' name came up. And I think he was, if I'm not mistaken, in 8th grade. And that's when he had the fro. That's when he had the big, huge, blown out afro. And I said, okay, well, hope the best for the young man. Then I started seeing his name resurface around 2001. 2001, I started seeing his name resurface, and it started becoming more and more talked about over the next 2 years, to the point where LeBron is probably the most heavily hyped athlete as far as basketball is concerned that I've ever seen coming into a pro sport. Even to this day, even with social media, Zion Williamson, Victor Wembanyama, I think LeBron, when you look at what was available at that time, look, the brothers' high school basketball games were coming on ESPN. Coming on ESPN. And what was so fulfilling about that was, for all of the hype that LeBron was receiving, and even those of you who don't like LeBron James have to admit this, he was living up to the hype back then. I remember watching him in the American, the McDonald's All-American game. And it was literally watching a man playing amongst boys. You could clearly see the difference in talent with this guy. So I suspected that if everything goes right for LeBron James, and that was a big if at that time, because he wasn't without his scandals, the Escalade, and the Escalade that his mother had, and the $800, and the $800 gifted in jerseys that he got, signed jerseys that people made a big fucking fuss about, which I thought was bullshit, concerning how much income that he was generating for ESPN and how much income he would eventually generate for NBC and NBA. You guys give him such bullshit. So at the end of the day, I thought that he'd probably be a top 20 all-time player. But he exceeded my expectations, at least mine. And the first 7 years of LeBron James' career, I loved him. Because he wasn't doing the same things that he's doing today or have been doing for the last couple of years. He wasn't, in my mind, he was organically getting his numbers. It wasn't a premeditation involved. It wasn't clear stat padding going on within the games. That didn't start too much later. He would go out there and play. If he happened to get a triple-double, he would get it. If he got his 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists or whatever, it was coming naturally. And to see a guy that big at that time, because, Tracy McGrady was a spectacle to watch at that time. 6'7", 6'8", 215 pounds, can handle the basketball like that. But have a guy LeBron size, 6'9", 240 coming into the NBA. Being able to do the things that he could do. We had never seen that before at that time. Not that type of bulk. I mean, we had Magic Johnson, but Magic was like 215, 220. LeBron was 240 coming into the NBA, and that when he hadn't quite developed into his man body. He eventually would become 265, 260, whatever, Now, of course, we all suspect LeBron had some help with some other, chemicals or whatever, but it is what it is. But yeah, the first 7 years, I enjoyed watching LeBron James play. And I defended him. I defended him when he was being called a king without a ring, etc., etc. He kept having these upset losses. I defended him. And yeah, it was pressure started to build on LeBron James over time. By 2008, 2009, 2010, he was getting a lot of pressure to win. But I felt like those Cavalier teams, he could win. I thought that they were teams that he could win championships with. At least that's what I thought. That's what most of us fans thought. Ultimately, he fell short. And you could argue, yeah, he probably did need another consistent, real, true all-star. Now, maybe, like they said, nobody wanted to come to Cleveland. But, shit, where's Kyrie right now? Even though it's not really working out in Dallas. If you got a superstar in a city, I mean, he should be able to sell players to come to his city. Somebody. But LeBron felt like the organization would never put a team around him. I remember a quote, he said something about, I don't want to sign a 6-year contract and be 31 years old with bad knees and no title. Something to that effect. So that pretty much said that he wasn't going to come back to Cleveland. So here comes the decision, and we saw something that we had never seen before, which was evidence that LeBron had been colluding with other players from other teams to join a supposed super team. Then, when it was announced that he was going to Miami, that means he was joining Dwayne Wade, and then, it was announced initially that they were trying to get Carmelo, but Carmelo wanted to go to New York and do his thing. So then they took Chris Bosh instead, and then you have this super team. And then, LeBron's going out there promising not 1, not 2, not 3, whatever the fuck it was. Then I was rooting for him. I was still rooting for him, even though I was seeing some things I didn't like. I didn't agree with the move, but I still rooted for him. They weren't my number one team, but I still rooted for LeBron whenever it wasn't my team going up against his. But then comes the 2011 NBA Finals. Then LeBron gets exposed for so many different things, so many holes in his game. And the Heat get upset, in my opinion. I think it was an upset by the Dallas Mavericks. But instead of LeBron taking responsibility for the loss, I'm not saying it should be solely on him, but his part, he lashes out like a child and says something that forever ruined his reputation with a lot of fans. And that was, he came across as an elitist snob. Basically saying that, who cares if I win or lose? I'm going to be living my life, and you're going to wake up with your everyday common man problems. And I still think that a lot of people hold that shit against him. Then I slowly started weaning myself off this dude. Started seeing more and more of things I didn't like. Him trying to get Eric Spoelstra fired, for instance. Him acting like a prima donna. Him always chewing up Mario Chalmers and having him be the whipping boy for everything. I started noticing that whenever LeBron would fuck up in some way, he would somehow deflect blame to others, including, as I just said, Mario Chalmers. No wonder Mario Chalmers says Michael Jordan's a GOAT. Then, the antics, man. 2013 playoffs, I noticed it even more. His front runner tendencies. Man, when shit is not going well with Miami, he don't want to shoot the basketball. Wade got to shoot the basketball. Ray Allen got to shoot. But whenever they go on a 13-2 run, they got a lead, then all of a sudden LeBron James becomes offensively aggressive. That type of shit was pissing me off. Then, the antics. 2014 NBA Finals. This guy claims to be a warrior, could play through anything, could play in any area, but guy gets carted off for cramps. Because, his menstrual had started and it was flowing like liver. Like fucking liver pate and shit. So he had to be carried from the game. Then he sees that, Wade and them getting old, so he bails and then goes back to Cleveland. By this point, they have Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving did not ask for him to come there, but LeBron brings his ass there anyway. Now, he does go to a finals, in which, because of the injuries to Kyrie and also new teammate Kevin Love, the series is lopsided in the Warriors' favor, and they win. Next year, they run it back. Cleveland comes back from a 3-1 deficit and win. Now, all of a sudden, LeBron wants to say that this series makes him the GOAT, which I thought was ridiculous at the time. But then you start having all these pundits agreeing with him as the Clutch Sports domination of the media was slowly beginning to make its way be known. Also, it was around this time, then you have Kyrie Irving, who in my opinion was the true hero of the 2016 NBA Finals. Then he finds out through the general manager that LeBron, who smiles in his face and congratulates him, was surreptitiously trying to get him traded. I believe it was for Chris Paul. Now, it wasn't all on LeBron. Kyrie was being jealous too, you know what I'm saying? Thinking the organization was catering to LeBron too much, when I can see that because LeBron was a superior player. He played there before. You know what I'm saying? But still, LeBron did a lot of messed up stuff. Then I noticed that the media kept trying to make Kyrie look like the bad guy. Why is he trying to leave? And then ultimately, when he left via trade to Boston, we know how the media's done Kyrie since then. Then LeBron started displaying a lot more diva behavior. The team, he says one thing to try to appeal like he's to appear like he's one of these all-time greats with a competitive nature and all this stuff. When in reality, the team's not fucking practicing. They play to the level of their competition, even though they're in the weakest Eastern Conference since the 1950s. Why this team only winning 50 games when the Warriors are winning 70 damn games in a more competitive Western Conference? Just goes to show you the lack of leadership and laziness of the LeBron teams. Then, they lose. And then lose again to the Warriors. And then people say, well, how unfair it is that KD's on that team, but, they fail to look at the loaded Cleveland team in a weak-ass Eastern Conference. How unfair is that to a conference that this guy has two potential Hall of Famers on his team and Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving? You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. Then, LeBron makes sure that he is absolved of all guilt when the 2018 NBA Finals in the last game, he takes the ball out of the hands of Rodney Hood to pad his own stats and then selfishly fakes an injury, lauds his stats, and then blames his teammates. And then he leaves to LA, where he basically is trying to get simultaneously steal Kobe Bryant's thunder and to have a Hollywood career, which ain't fooling nobody, which it really didn't work out. His movie sucked. Trying to follow in Michael Jordan's footsteps, it didn't work out. And, things went the way they have. A bubble title, more diva behavior. We saw what he did to Russell Westbrook. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to go into detail about the shit he's done since then. The media manipulation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just, LeBron has set the blueprint for the modern day athlete. To want lavish praise, but act like a petty, petulant child behind the scenes. Never want responsibility, always blaming his teammates. And I'm taking it rather lightly on him in this particular video, because I could be a lot worse, but, I'm just spitting facts. People will call you a hater, but, I could be a lot meaner in this video, but he is a great player. But man, oh man, this motherfucker got flaws. Serious flaws. It's human being, to be honest with you, man. Uncoachable. Always throwing other people on the bus. People talk about he don't have no influence, but half the damn team be Clutch Sports. I mean, what is that? You got commentators on your payroll because you can't take criticism. Unbelievable. But that's it for the most part. I don't want to make this video too long. Number 2 most hated player of all time, LeBaldi.